Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. Now, real quickly, when you look up the word Cold War, they would tell you about World War II and how Russia, Soviet Union, and its allies fought with the Americans and their allies, and they had a war. And then after the war, they start dealing with each other politically and having tensions. The tensions start to get aggressive with each other and start talking seriously about, treaties and what if they do this, they gonna retaliate, or starting to pretty much to argue with each other, or set guidelines trying to prevent war because of the tensions. Okay, so that's the same element when you're dealing with the Bible. It's a cold war throughout the whole Bible because these two nations have been warring with each other. It's two sides. It's the wicked and it's the righteous, and it's a bloodline, two bloodlines that had a war, and after that war, they've been warring off and on, having cold wars and hot wars, cold wars and hot wars. So let's get into the precepts. You got Genesis 25. Let's go to Genesis 25 and start there. Genesis 25. Let's see. Let's read the first encounter of these two nations. And the Lord, this is Genesis 25:23. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. One people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So that set the precedence of what's going to happen with these two nations. They're going to be warring with each other. One going to be stronger than the other. And the older is going to end up serving the younger. Okay, so you get into Genesis 27 and 41. Once the older realized the significance of that situation, this is what he said in Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So after Isaac died and Esau stopped mourning, he had a plan to slay Jacob. He was mad about the blessing that was given to Jacob, and he didn't care about his blessing and his birthright. He was mad about what Jacob had received. So when the Israelites went into Egypt and they came out of Egypt, you had these children of Esau waiting on them. They was waiting. And so soon as they came out, when you go to Exodus 17, it said, and then came Amalek and fought with Israel. Soon as they came out of Egypt. And Amalek and when you go to Genesis 36, he was a grandson of Esau. So in 17 verse 8 it say Amalek fought with Israel soon as they came out of Egypt, or were delivered out of Egypt. And so, once you jump down to verse 16, the Lord made a statement. He said, because the Lord have sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And when the Bible says from generation to generation, or throughout your generation, that means forever. As long as you living, until your nation is exterminated, you will be warring with this nation. And so the war haven't eased off. So you had Balaam that showed you how long this war would last in Numbers 24. Balaam supposedly went into a trance. Numbers 24:14 say, I go unto my people, come therefore I will advise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days, or in the last days. So to get to the point, down in verse 18, he says, and Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. So that's another prophecy about the last days, that the Edomites will be there in the last days, and they will war with Israel and become slaves to Israel. You see? And verse 20 talks about how they was the first of the nations to pretty much be in rulership over the whole world. And really, of those two nations, they was the first to rule. Now when you get down to let's see here, when you get to Deuteronomy, the Lord made an oath with the nation of Israel and told them, if y'all break the laws, then I'm gonna throw you into captivity, pretty much. So when you look at verse Deuteronomy 28, 48 through 50, it talks about the nation of Israel being under a nation, in want of all things, putting a yoke of iron on their neck. In 49 it reads, say, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far in the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. 50, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. You see, and when it say swift as the eagle flies, that's one of the symbols of Edom. In all of their kingdoms, they put the eagle up, and the eagle represent the nation of Edom, or Esau's children. So you take that all the way to Judges, the 3rd chapter, when the Israelites was disobeying the Lord. He said in verse 12, he said, the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. 3 and 13 say, and he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek. You see, so the Lord brings the Edomites against Jerusalem when, or the Israelites, when they go off and do wicked in his sight. The same thing will happen in Hosea chapter 8 verse 3. He told them that they went away from doing good, and so the enemy was going to be following him. The enemy would pursue them, and that enemy is the Edomites. And so this war has been hot and cold throughout the whole Bible. You get this 1 Samuel chapter 15. 1 Samuel chapter 15, you go to just to get to the point, he told Saul to exterminate the Edomites, or this Amalek tribe that was close by, and its king. And so that was another period of time where they was warring with Amalek. When King Saul became king, and he gave Saul the instructions to exterminate the Amalek tribe, killing all the people. Let's just read that in 15 verse 3. 1 Samuel 15 verse 3. It said, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and women, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Okay, and so Saul disobeyed, and the Lord gave the kingdom to King David. Now, when you get to 2 Samuel, I'm thinking it might be the end. No, right at the end of 1 Samuel, David didn't become, or he chose David to become king, but King Saul was pursuing David, and David went to the Philistines and made a deal with the Philistines for a city, and the city was called Ziklag. So when you go to 1 Samuel 30, it says in verse 1, it says, Amalek had invaded the south of Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burnt it with fire. Verse 2, this is 1 Samuel 30, verse 2, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any other great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. So verse 3, so David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burnt with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives, slaves. For verse 4, for then David and his people that were with him lifted up the voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. So the Edomites came and stole King David's whole city, burnt it with fire, took all the people captive. You see, they've been warned with these Edomites the whole time in the Bible. So when you to make it quick and get to the point, when you get to Psalms, you got Psalms 37. They talks about the Edomites. Salakia talks about the Edomites warring with Israel, and 37 verse 137, Psalms 137 verse 7, it say, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. So these Edomites always been warned with the Israelites, and King David kept them in mind. He talked about them in verse 52, chapter 52. He talked about the Edomites, and he talked about the Edomites all through Psalms. So when you get to Ezekiel gives you the climax of this war with these Edomites. The climax is when Yahushua Mashiach come and war with them, and Ezekiel gives you how the whole setup is going to be, and how you should see it, pretty much. In Ezekiel 25:14, it said, I will lay my vengeance upon Edom. You see, that's the Lord talking. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury. And they shall know my vengeance, says the Lord God. So the Lord uses the Edomites to be the whipping stick or the punisher of the Israelites, and then for the wickedness that the Edomites have done to the Israelites, he's gonna punish them and use the Israelites to bring out the vengeance back to the Edomites. And so that's the cold and hot war that's been going on with Esau and Jacob all through the Bible. And the climax is war between these two individuals. Now when you go to Revelation 19 and 19, just to get to the point, 19 and 19 bring out how Yahushua Mashiach is going to come back and war with all the kings of the earth, and mainly is the Edomites, because in in Isaiah chapter 63, he talks about he's going to be coming from Edom with his garments red, like he been stumping grapes, but it's going to be with blood. And he's going to be coming from Edom. So the climax of this war is going to be when Yahushua Mashiach come back and war with these Edomites and choose the elect, gather the elect of the nation of Israel to join the rulership that he's going to set up. So that's what the Bible is about. It's about a hot and cold war between Jacob and Esau, and it started in the womb. They was wrestling in the womb with each other from the beginning. And that's what the main ideal of the Bible is about. And for the blessing went to Esau first, and we see how he's ruling in wickedness, and the ultimate blessing is going to be to Jacob, an everlasting rulership of righteousness. But I'm going to leave it there. All praises to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rekakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace of the elect worldwide. The kingdom is at hand. Shalom.